Section 9 of Rewards and Fairies. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to see how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Shirtagal. Rewards and Fairies by Rudyard Kipling. Section 9. The Conversion of St. Wilfrid. Eddie's Service. Eddie, priest at St. Wilfrid, in the chapel at Manhood End, ordered a midnight service for such as cared to attend. But the Saxons were keeping Christmas, and the night was stormy as well. Nobody came to service, though Eddie rang the bell. Wicked weather for walking, said Eddie at Manhood End. But I must go on with the service, for such as care to attend. The altar candles are lighted. An old marsh donkey came, bold as a guest invited, and stared at the guttering flame. The storm beat on the windows, and water splashed on the floor, and a wet yoke-weary bullock pushed in through the open door. How do I know what is greatest? How do I know what is least? That is my Father's business, said Eddie, Wilfrid's priest. But three are gathered together. Listen to me and attend. I bring good news, my brethren, said Eddie of Manhood End. And he told the ox of a manger and a stall in Bethlehem, and he spoke to the ass of a rider that rode to Jerusalem. They steamed and dripped in the chancel. They listened and never stirred, while just as though they were bishops, Eddie preached them the word. Till the gale blew off on the marshes, the windows showed the day, and the ox and the ass together wheeled and clattered away. And when the Saxons mocked him, said Eddie of Manhood End, I dare not shut his chapel on such as care to attend. The Conversion of St. Wilfrid. They had bought peppermints up at the village, and were coming home past little St. Barnabas Church, when they saw Jimmy Kidbrooke, the carpenter's baby, kicking at the churchyard gate, with a shaving in his mouth and the tears running down his cheeks. Una pulled out the shaving and put in a peppermint. Jimmy said he was looking for his granddaddy. He never seemed to take much notice of his father. So they went up between the old graves, under the leaf-dropping limes, where Jim trotted in, looking about the empty church, and screamed like a gate hinge. Young Sam Kidbrooke's voice came from the bell tower and made them jump. "Why, Jimmy!" he called. "What are you doing here? Fetch him, father!" Old Mr. Kidbrooke stumped downstairs, jerked Jimmy onto his shoulders, stared at the children beneath his brass spectacles, and stumped back again. They laughed. It was so exactly like Mr. Kidbrooke. "It's all right," Una called up the stairs. "We found him. Sam, does his mother know?" "He's come off by himself. She'll be just about crazy," Sam answered. "Then I'll run down the street and tell her." Una darted off. "Thank you, Miss Una. Would you like to see how we're mending the bell beams, Mus' Dan?" Dan hopped up and saw young Sam lying on his stomach in a most delightful place among beams and ropes, close to the 5 great bells. Old Mr. Kidbrooke on the floor beneath was planing a piece of wood, and Jimmy was eating the shavings as fast as they came away. He never looked at Jimmy. Jimmy never stopped eating, and the broad gilt bobbed pendulum of the church clock never stopped swinging across the whitewashed wall of the tower. Dan winked through the sawdust that fell on his upturned face. "Ring a bell," he called. "I mustn't do that, but I'll buzz one of 'em a bit for you," said Sam. He pounded on the sound bow of the biggest bell, and waked a hollow groaning boom that ran up and down the tower like creepy feelings down your back. Just when it almost began to hurt, it died away in a hurry of beautiful sorrowful cries. Like a wine glass rubbed with a wet finger, the pendulum clanked, one loud clank to each silent swing. Dan heard Una return from Mrs. Kidbrooke's, and ran down to fetch her. She was standing by the front staring at someone who kneeled at the altar rail. "Is that lady who practices the organ?" she whispered. "No, she's gone into the organ place. Besides, she wears black," Dan replied. The figure rose and came down the nave. It was a white-haired man in a long white gown, with a sort of scarf looped low on the neck, one end hanging over his shoulder. His loose, long sleeves were embroidered with gold, and a deep strip of gold embroidery waved and sparkled round the hem of his gown. "Go and meet him," said Puck's voice behind the font. "It's only Wilfrid." "Wilfrid who?" said Dan. "You come along too." Wilfrid, Saint of Sussex, and Archbishop of York. I shall wait till he asks me." He waved them forward. Their feet squeaked on the old grave slabs of the centre aisle. The Archbishop raised one hand with a pink ring on it, and said something in Latin. He was very handsome, and his thin face looked almost as silvery as his thin circle of hair. "Are you alone?" he asked. "Puck's here, of course," said Una. "Do you know him?" "I know him better now than I used to." He beckoned over Dan's shoulder, and spoke again in Latin. Puck pattered forward, holding himself as straight as an arrow. The Archbishop smiled. "Be welcome," he said. "Be very welcome." "Welcome to you also, O Prince of the Church," Puck replied. The Archbishop bowed his head and passed on, till he glimmered like a white moth in the shadow by the font. "He does look awfully princely," said Una. "Isn't he coming back?" "Oh yes, he's only looking over the church. He's very fond of churches," said Puck. "What's that?" The lady who practices the organ was speaking to the blower boy behind the organ screen. "We can't very well talk here," Puck whispered. "Let's go to Panama Corner." He led them to the end of the south aisle, where there is a slab of iron which says in queer, long-tailed letters, "Orate P. Anima Johon Colleen." The children always called it Panama Corner. The Archbishop moved slowly about the little church, peering at the old memorial tablets and the new glass windows. The lady who practices the organ began to pull out stops and rustle hymn books behind the screen. "I hope she'll do all the soft lacy tunes, like Treacle on Porridge," said Una. "I like the trumpety ones best," said Dan. "Oh, look at Wilfrid! He's trying to shut the altar gates." "Tell him he mustn't," said Puck quite seriously. "He can't, anyhow," Dan muttered, and tiptoed out of Panama Corner, while the Archbishop patted and patted at the carved gates that always sprang open again beneath his hand. "That's no use, sir," Dan whispered. "Old Mr. Kidbrooke says altar gates are just the one pair of gates which no man can shut. He made 'em so himself." The Archbishop's blue eyes twinkled. Dan saw that he knew all about it. "I beg your pardon," Dan stammered, very angry with Puck. "Yes, I know. He made them so himself." The Archbishop smiled and crossed to Panama Corner, where Una dragged up a certain padded armchair for him to sit on. The organ played softly. "What does the music say?" he asked. Una dropped into the chant without thinking. "Oh, all ye works of the Lord, bless ye the Lord. Praise him and magnify him for ever." "We call it the Noah's Ark, because it's all lists of things. Beasts and birds and whales, you know." "Whales?" said the Archbishop quickly. "Yes. O ye whales and all that move in the water," Una hummed. "Bless ye the Lord." It sounds like a wave turning over, doesn't it? "Holy Father," said Puck with a demure face, "is a little seal also one who moves in the water?" "Eh? Oh yes, yes," he laughed. "A seal moves wonderfully in the water. Do the seal come to my island still?" Puck shook his head. "All those little islands have been swept away." "Very possible. The tides ran fiercely down there. Do you know the land of the sea calf, maiden?" "No, but we've seen seals at Brighton." "The Archbishop is thinking of a little farther down the coast. He means Seal's Eye, Sealsea, down Crickster way, where he converted the South Saxons," Puck explained. "Yes, yes. If the South Saxons did not convert me," said the Archbishop, smiling. "The first time I was wrecked was on that coast. As our ship took ground we tried to push her off. An old fat fellow of a seal, I remember, reared breast high out of the water and scratched his head with his flipper as if he were saying, 'What does that excited person with the pole think he is doing?' I was very wet and miserable, but I could not help laughing till the natives came down and attacked us." "What did you do?" Dan asked. "One could very well go back to France, so one tried to make them go back to the shore. All the South Saxons are born wreckers, like my own Northumbrian folk. I was bringing over a few things from